Started. Thank you for your patience. It's always difficult to find places for all the cars from a great audience like this. So, well, good evening. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Greg Whitcup. I am the director of both Cranbrook Art Museum as well as the Cranbrook Center for Collections and Research. And on behalf of all of my colleagues here at Cranbrook, including the chair of our Board of Trustees, Bruce Peterson, and the chair of the Center's Oversight Committee, Sandy Smith, I'd like to welcome all of you to Cranbrook this evening. Each spring and fall, the Cranbrook Center for Collections and Research offers a series of behind-the-scenes programs that provide in-depth examinations of Cranbrook's unparalleled landscape, architecture, collections, and archives through a series of educational programs. We are starting the season tonight with a keynote lecture by the man that is arguably France's most important landscape designer, Louis Benech. While the topic at first glance may seem unrelated to Cranbrook and our history, it has everything to do with our future. Earlier this year, Cranbrook's Board of Trustees and President Dominic DeMarco engaged the Massachusetts-based planners, Reed Hildebrand, to update Cranbrook's master plan. It is in this context of reflection and visioning that we thought it would be interesting to step back and see what another country and culture has done to preserve and extend its landscape heritage through the work of this remarkable contemporary designer. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to acknowledge a few of the people that helped to make the center's programs possible. Our lecture tonight is presented in partnership with the University of Michigan and the Stamp School of Art and Design and their Penny Stamp Speaker Series. Joining us tonight is the series director, Christina Hamilton. Christina, thank you for suggesting that we share this visitor tonight. And of course, and I'm sure you're going to love the lecture tonight, if you leave thinking, oh my God, I either have to hear him again, or there are 5 more people that really have to hear what Louis Benech has to say, they'll be able to go to Ann Arbor tomorrow evening, when at 5:10 at the Michigan Theater, they will be able to hear Mr. Benech speak again. I would also like to thank a few of the partners that we have that provide very generous annual support for the center here at Cranbrook, including the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, and the Tobes Foundation. Quite simply, without their support, we wouldn't be able to do programs like this tonight. If you are not already on the center's mailing list and would like to learn more about our programs, please pick up a copy of our newsletter at the front desk, and more important, make sure that you leave your name on our mailing list. Increasingly through email is the way that we are communicating our programs, and if we don't have your email address, you're going to miss out on many of these programs. So, here to the feature tonight. Louis Benech has carried out some 300 park and garden projects around the world. Since 1990, when he won the competition to restore the Tuileries in Paris, he has been France's landscape designer of choice. Since then, Mr. Benech has designed the gardens for France's presidential residence, the Foreign Ministry, the National Archives, as well as for the homes of many of France's most influential families and creative professionals. With each of his projects, Benech combines the desire to create long-lasting and aesthetically pleasing gardens with respect for a site's history and ecosystem, while also considering its future upkeep. At the heart of his work is one simple idea. A garden is an artificial construction with elements of nature that has to bring pleasure to those who experience it. Most recently, Mr. Benech has been working at the Palace of Versailles on a contemporary garden for the Water Theatre Grove, which was Louis XIV's favorite spot within this world-famous landscape designed by André Lenotre. No pressure there. Please join me in welcoming to Cranbrook, Monsieur Louis Benech.
So good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here. This lecture is going to show you a few gardens. I think, no, yes, which are with different climates, as you have here in America. And they are smaller, and it's quite embarrassing to start to, talking here in Cranbrook, which is a wonderful place which I just visited, and which is fabulous. So let's go. Yes, I'm going to talk about a bit of the Tuileries and of Versailles to end the talk. And the few first gardens are gardens which are in ordinary places, I would say. That's a garden in that fancy place which is Saint-Tropez in France, and which is half Mediterranean and half sophisticated. I have lawns there, and I just enjoyed and enhanced the view of the place, which is fabulous. This is taken from the house. I don't know what I'm doing. As usual. Maybe I've been too fast. Yes, okay. So that's fine. And that's... I can't press it properly. No, it's...
Yeah, use the arrows here and here.
Okay, but you know, I'm an elephant. And so, I don't know, why I'm showing that is because it's not boxwood, but a plant which is not hardy enough for this type of weather condition here, but which is called Myrcene africana, and which is a perfectly adaptable in warmer place, which is a faster grower, but not too fast, and which is a very interesting plant to my eyes. On the right-hand side, there is plenty of native from Mediterranean, a mix of cistus and Bupleurum fruticosum. And this is a spring picture, and in the holes, there is a mixture of things that you will see in bloom a bit later. So that's back. I want to go further on. That's still roughly the same picture, but on a small olive grove. And the pine tree, which is at the end, was painted by Paul Signac because his house was just next door to that pine tree. That's a bit further down on the pool that you were seeing from the house, which is very formally placed in the center of the composition, because in fact it indicates, which we were not seeing, but the church of the village of Saint-Tropez. Same picture, but when the agapanthus are in bloom. And that's the lower part of the garden, which is a fresher atmosphere, a more jungle-like type of tender plants, I would say. And the garden is organized in 3 walks. There is one white one yellow one, which is that one. The white one is on the right at a lower level. And it's composed with leaves mainly. The pictures were taken at a time of the year where there were little blooms, apart from that helichrysum, which is very much used in hanging baskets everywhere, but which I used there to cover a mess of stones, because those were old walls of a restaurant that we decided not to restore. That's roughly the same picture. the other way around, ending on a harbor, and everything is yellow there. Those are the blooms on the kind of Greek design of Myrcena africana, when the perovskia, which are growing well here, lavenders and things, are in bloom. Again, the vine, it was a place with vine, and the owner asked me why I didn't take them off everywhere, but they are sort of agricultural maintenance. It was the spirit of the place. They are always green without additional water during summer in dry places. That's the same little walk in front of the house. And that place has disappeared, actually. And the olive trees that you saw before were transplanted from that place where the house has been made bigger. And it's apart from the irises and apart from the Californian escaldia, all those plants are just sown and in a very natural setting, without mowing and without watering as the lawn at the base of the house. In Mediterranean gardens, I'm trying to avoid to add too much water in gardens. You know what's happening in some places today. On dry weather, it can happen. And so if I can avoid to use artificial irrigation, I'm happy. That's in a wet place. It's in Brittany, on the north coast of Brittany. It's in Dinard, and what you don't see, but we are facing Saint-Malo and a small harbor called Saint-Servant. And it's a tiny summer garden, which I wanted to be, with blooms during summertime. It's a holiday place for the moment. And I wanted it to be low maintenance. And at that level, which is above, there is, let's say, 3 levels. This is the top level, which is organized like a small orchard, but with 2 plants, which are hydrangea, massively used, and hibis. This is pictures from the lower place, but back to the upper place. And there is just 2 plants, the hibi, which are the blue flowers, or without flowers, and a very few herbaceous plants, like that acanthus there. Now I'm going to a place which is not very close to France, but where plenty of French people have houses, and it's a very nice place on in a place which is in between the Anti-Atlas and the Atlas mountain. It's quite high. It's more than 1,000 meters above sea level, so it's really cold during winter time. It's warm enough to be able to grow date plums. But when I started to work there, I lost plenty of bougainvillea and orange trees, and I thought it was Morocco, but it was much colder than I thought initially. And what I can say, I organized the place. This pool is axed on a new additional place. The Xar is an old house, and I tried to make this pool area private. You don't see it really well, but the stony area is protected from the house by taller plants, which are just grasses, so you don't see that being too mineral. And it's a long canal, actually. And you will see it from above. No. Yes, you see. That's where I tried to grow jasmine. They all died. This is honeysuckle, the Japanese honeysuckle. And actually, it's a place which is used as a hotel. And so people are walking here to, there is different ways of keeping privacy for, I would say, private places. This is the simple garden at the base of the old house, and it's just olive trees there. That's another small copy of those Islamic gardens, where plants are planted at a low level for irrigation, and which is in the prolongation of one of the axis of the garden. And there is acanthus, which are disappearing there during summertime, the leaves, but it's full of evergreen leaves that you don't see on that picture, of clivia, which are winter blooms for winter. Ooh. That's an alley which is turning on blue leaves. It's mainly, there is a few flowers, like plumbagos and things. Oh no, I'm a pain. A bit of the kitchen garden where the hedges in between the vegetables are made out of rosemary. That's another walk, which I felt with hollyhocks at the beginning. And the irrigation, I kept the system of all the irrigation in that garden was gravitarian. And actually, it's quite dry during summer. It's full of water while the snow is melting on the mountains. And but we are still using this system during summertime. And as far as we were adding water ourselves, which is now coming from a well, everything has been waterproofed, I would say. And I've been working myself there to keep its aspect as it was. But it's you can't see, but there is actually concrete with stones and then the soil. And I hope it works as if no one came here. And the place is still used with an agricultural purpose, and so I'm growing proper wheat and corn in some areas, but then the land is empty sometimes, and I have some protection of ornamental grasses which are there all year round. So when you walk, you can see true crops, but from the house again, you don't see when people are working, and so I place that as a sort of soft barrier, announcing there's just those two grasses are aliens in Morocco. One of them is Japanese, it's Benech, and the other one is African. There is a short and a taller one. And you see it from above when the real corn is there, which is yellower, just behind the, I would say, ornamental grasses, but there is no real break. Another dry place, and those gardens are used mainly without water. Not every part of the garden, but I would show you what is irrigated and what isn't. Oh shit. No, the elephant at work. And all what you see apart from the water, which is in this bloody swimming pool, which is too blue, is not watered at all. So summertimes, I mean, there is the olive trees, and it's I kept the front of the house totally empty. It was a vineyard before the house was built, and I found that the place was very nice without trees and being just a very open space in front of that small island, which is called Spetsopula. This is the garden is on one of the Greek islands of the Peloponnese, which is Spetses, and it's one of the green islands. It's not as rocky as the Cyclades Islands. And next is going to come a picture of the same place in spring. And I've been using native Greek grasses, but with an addition of an American plant, which is very easy, which is setting seeds everywhere, as you can see, which is the Gora lindimeri. In the command, in the wishes of the owners, she wanted to have a garden working during summertime while she was there, and I still have plenty of blooms in summer in that place. Those are details of planting, of caper bush, low teucrium, marubium, I mean very Mediterranean plants. And those two pictures are the axis where through the field, I have two organized and two really planted things, which are bits of lavender fields, plus some Mexican grass, which is very much used today, and which is shorter and of a different texture, which is that very, very nice Stipa tenuifolia, which is very hardy, actually. I don't know how it would grow and stay here, but in New York it would stand very well the winters. And it's a grass which sets seeds very easily, so it renews itself on the site. And I did years ago a garden without a penny for a hospital, and we sown with the gardener of the place that grass, and most of the hospital has been planted with it, and it's still there, amazingly, and with very little work. Those are again details and of another part of the garden where the grass which has been used there is called Iparenia aerta, and it's a much bluer grass when it's fresh, and which turns like again filled, and it's a wonderful thing to use in dry countries in a uniform way, so it can you can keep empty spaces. Those are spring pictures. I kept a bit of vine, which we replanted. The owner was terrified of bees. And another kind of genista, which is called retama. That's after they are bloom, they are white in bloom. And the pack of cypress is actually to hide a house that you don't see on that picture, but from other parts of the garden, there is a house which was dominating the garden, and which disappeared. That's the counterpart of the same picture. And all that was replanted, hoping it looks like not too fussy. That's the fresh garden. I did, next to the house, some irrigated place, and one is very close to, it's a north-facing garden, and there is a huge window falling on it. And so it's very shady, and I planted there plenty of plants which are not necessarily Mediterranean, but which are in bloom for summer, including hydrangea, working very well. The trees are a plant called Melia, and what you don't see, because they were too young, but on the right, the lighter shade is given by a wonderful jacaranda, giving a very nice summer bloom, I mean, late spring bloom. Other views. All that was planted. And there is a few places where, no, you don't see it on that picture, where I've been creating little hills to make the Lentiscus looking like a big puff of green, but a bit higher, again to hide houses. This is in the Peloponnese, in an area which is quite built. You can see it in front of you, in the background, and I think we had that picture before. That's a bad picture of one of the house. On that land there is a few houses, and the walls are covered, the stone walls are covered with, clipped in a very thin way of bougainvillea. So it's very flashy. Yes, that's closer to here. Simple program. I'm going to show you a plan of the place. And I'm not sure. Yes, that was the access initially. The drive was there, going to that barn. And there is another house, and the car park was here. So you could see from the swimming pool the cars, and I just tried to transform the place to make it livable. It's a place which is full of deers. This is the friend's house. This is the master bedroom, I would say. And so I invented a garden which is easily protected during wintertime for deers, which is a long room, sharing 2 spaces with the roses, which was the delight of the deers. But we are able to fence that block. And that's the result. Of course, the bigger trees were there. But all those viburnums, I saw that you have some in here, in the Théâtre Antique or the Greek theater. There are those divine Japanese viburnums. And this place, the trees which are here, which are maple trees, were the place where the cars were. Oh yes, you have 2 pictures. Sorry, I'm apart from being an elephant, I'm a bit blind. And yes, this is my rose garden, which is totally fenced with boxwood, and we are just closing it during winter time. And it makes a protection to the swimming pool, and it's sharing the space in between houses too. So it has some functions. And so that's how the place was. I added a few apple trees where it was needed to complete the old ones. Details. It's full of walls, and we did build plenty of walls, added walls in the garden. That's no maintenance. The keeper of the house is a wonderful Portuguese man who is doing that. And so those were added, for example, and I recreated other orchard in the place. There is one magnolia orchard. And after your visit, I'm going to add another Japanese cherry orchard because the land has been increasing a bit, and so we will change the entrance. So we are going to go to more serious things which have no connection to here, but actually reflection can be everywhere roughly the same, is how to maintain things today with little distortions and with little progress on historical sites, without killing and being totally respectful of history. This is not a good example. I didn't know. I mean, I forgot I had that place. Because this garden is historical for other reasons than my work. I'm not responsible of anything there. This was made with American money in the years where Cranbrook was built. Because it's an early 20th century garden made into a Renaissance garden, reproducing André du Cerceau's type of plans, and being more creative on 2 terraces. This is a garden of love, and it's a pure fantasy of what was a Renaissance garden, but reinterpreted early last century. And myself, I've been working here, where the grandfather of the owner, was wishing to do something there. It was empty, and just a donkey was there. And the grandfather designed a garden with 3 stars shape. It's a sort of trapeze. And everything is planted with annual, and here, which is the kitchen garden, or the historical kitchen garden with vegetables. And so he was dreaming to have, it's a visited place, he was wishing to have visitors happy all year round. And actually he has plenty of gardeners there to maintain that, and which were annual planting and deplanting and pruning of fruit trees was not, and pruning also of the boxwood and the trees was not connected to the work you have to do on a herbaceous garden. So I offered him to do such a thing, but the design of the place is not mine. And so I have a few early spring flowers. It's supposed to work all year round and all the visited months, and so that's early spring. Plenty of things could grow here on that. Spirea and euphorbias, maybe not the asphodelene, but I'm sure that those poppies, those oriental poppy, and also those patentilla, they are quite tough. And this is the same garden. And so I did a garden for the sun. It's the higher place, and the shape of the is a sort of star shape, and so this is really warm colors. And the next garden is called the cloud, or it's more bluish and more whitish and more grayish. And there is a mix of shrubs and herbaceous with tough things and more delicate things. And so that's how it works during summertime, which is his main visited period. That's another place which is an ancient garden where I've been very lucky to work. And it's a place which was fun for me because I've been, thanks to that place, working with plenty of artists, because there is plenty of good piece of sculpture outside. I don't have any pieces. This is an old aerial view, I suppose. I have to put my glasses on. Yes. And you don't see anything, but here, Richard, oh yes, that's the Richard Serra, which is a walk in the forest that you can see from the house. And there is a good kitchen garden. I have very little pictures of the kitchen garden, but you will see a few things. It's a classical relais de chasse built early 17th century. And some plants were there. I mean, the cedar was there. And I did planting matching with the cedar, adding gray stuff, but plenty of shrubs, if I could. It's full of topiaries, which are needing a lot of work. It's not a light maintenance place. This is your American, this is the, you see the forest pansy. I'm lost. Cercis canadensis. That's the farmyard, which is based on yellow colors. I'm very keen on yellow colors, a bit too much, but doing plenty of gardens in cities, which I found are quite grayish and dull, especially when the weather is gray. I mean, this is a bit of fresh and light feeling. Those are details. Those are plants which are, everything is growing here. That's the hybrid of your, those are Jeffrey, a hybrid in between the Saccharum and Saccharinum maple. The cornus, the dogwood, which is very hardy. And the finishing of Hydrangea Annabelle. That's one of your native plants, which is the Cornish alternifolia, and this is the variegated shape. This part of the garden is turning, as you can see, on white colors, but again I have plenty of shrubs. This is a hedge of another dogwood, but which is European, which is Cornish moss variegata, but which is making the hedges in bloom. Roughly, it would work here a bit later than now. So still without leaves, there is blooms from the hedges, and the mixture, there is 2 balanced gardens in that area, which are around a nice big statue, which I didn't take pictures of the sculptures, but there is a very nice caldaire there. Those are the way I treated a place which is again full of very nice sculptures, but I'm not showing them. I don't know why. Considering they are not growing, probably. That's the main perspective in front of the house. Winter time, and yes, another place which is historical but not important, a bit more like your... The house is here, a lower place which is wet land. This is flat, and we are here on the plateau of Sologne. And here somewhere there is the Loire Valley. And the house, which is late 18th century, is dominating that empty space. You see there is a lake that we don't see from the house. Funny shape here. And the design of the garden was made early 19th century, just developing 3 axes. And when I arrived, this area was really full of trees, so we have been very nasty taking them off to find back that view, which you will see next picture. Yes. And you don't see it well, but at the end of it, and with the eye, you can see the Cathedral of Orléans there. And that was full, and so the main work there was cleaning and refining circulation of water. So I've been adding details like that, obliging the water to fill the canals, but also to have movement and to keep the water as clean as possible. Those pictures were taken wintertime, and so it's ice actually there. You will understand better what is the main axis through that picture. Everything was there. I just worked a bit on that pond because we had an island on it, but it was leaking, and there is another pool that you don't see, which is there. This is an oval. There is a round pool at a lower level, and this is the lowest level. But what I did there, as far as the water was not working well, looking at plans, and seeing that this is the axis going to Orléans, this is the main central axis, the house being where the picture is taken, and I have an eastern axis there. And I saw that on the plan something was written here. And so I did that, which is not historical, but which is matching to the axis, and which recreates, those pictures are funny, it's quite virtual, those pictures, because they were taken in a January morning without snow like here, but because I asked the photographer to go there because the place is full of snowdrops, and he arrived a day. You see the water where there is no ice there because it's shaded, and so I have 2 rounds of water which were belonging to the medieval farm of the place, just to protect the animals during the night, and they were sent onto their islands, and the bridge was taken off. But they are remaining in the more classical garden, which was made with those previous elements. These are views of the Greek, and you see the connection with the bigger central pool. And this is normal season. Those are the snowdrops I'm talking of. And if I'm showing them, they are not dense there, but the effect is that they are very dense, because apart from the snowdrops, the summertime is cyclamen. And when I arrived, there were also plenty of shrubs here and on the other side, so you couldn't see the woodland, and you couldn't see the snowdrops, and you couldn't see. So the principle has been to take off all the undergrowth of the trees, the smaller shrubs, and just keeping carpets of those two things, which are absolutely amazing, but I'm not responsible of that. And that's to end the face of the house. And this is on the plateau side, and you understand that behind the house it's a lower level. And one picture of the kitchen garden, which was a walled garden but empty, which was full of Christmas trees and a few older fruit trees like that cherry tree. And I'm going to go to the more important thing in my life, which are that bloody story of the Tuileries, which is an old story for me now, and also talking about the more recent Versailles, where it has been a more creative story. So that's the Le Nôtre's plan for the Tuileries. The house was there. The house was built by Catherine de Médicis, and she was dreaming to build a garden. So she has been building her house out of the city, after the moat of the city, after the moat where the Louvre was in the city. And so that was outside, and it was a lonely castle, which has been connected historically after that by La Galerie du Bordelot by Henri III and Henri IV, and then where Louis XIV has been working on the two pavilions, which were constructed by Le Vau, which are still there, but with a skin which is not Le Vau, but which is Le Fuel, who worked for Napoleon III. But so Le Nôtre found a garden, which was a walled garden, which he kept walled, but by creating terraces more than just wall. So you could see the river when it was nice and avoid it when it was not nice. He pushed it to the west. By the end of the garden was there with an eco wall there, but it was totally walled. And what Le Nôtre has been doing in a clever way was to open the garden, apart from making it bigger, which is one story, but to open it to the point that we have the Champs-Élysées now, to transform equivalent size of walks. This one is bigger and wider than those two ones, while in the Catherine de Médicis garden, the walks were absolutely equivalent. And he started to work on his important stories, which is to remember, without saying it, that the French power was like, all the kings and queens were there by the grace of God and the droit divin. And there is always a few triangulation in his work. And this is the first work he did by placing in an axis pools, which looked, when you were walking, of the same size. And also, this is nearly 1 kilometer long, which is a long trip. And everything is, in the axis, everything is becoming bigger, so it reduces the length of the place. And also, he has been one of the only persons to work that way, but this pool is not in the center of the sandy space, which is shorter side of the house and bigger after. But from the side of the house, the life in the 17th century in France, like in the Galerie des Glaces, was first floor, not lower level. And from the first floor, you had the feeling that this pool was in the center of the composition. This is the axis today, with La Concorde, with the... And the way we worked was to lower those levels ourselves to be able to create that terrace, and again to have a sentiment, a feeling of dominating the garden, which was not the case when we started to work. And this is two pictures of the garden, how we found it, and how we transformed it. The pyramid, the pay pyramid was not there. This was not that round thing, which I found a bit sad myself. That was more clever, because there is a connection, a car connection between two guichets. This was the yard of the Palais des Tuileries, which was there. What Catherine de Médicis has been building was a house here. The moats are somewhere here underground, but for the one who have been to the Louvre, you go through the Fossé de Charles V underground. There is plenty of underground stories which are interesting. And this wing of the Louvre has been added by both Henri III and Henri IV to connect to the palace, which has disappeared. And those are the two pavilions I was talking, which are Le Vau, for Louis XIV, but three dressed by Le Fuel. And so Le Fuel, for Napoleon III, did that garden, created a little moat here to keep that part of the garden private for the house with a 19th century design, while those design is still belonging to the previous picture I've been showing you. And what we tried to do with Pascal was to find one space and not two spaces, so we went back to that. To find, the President François Mitterrand didn't want us to do those walks which were not existing, because here was a statue of Waldeck-Rousseau. Never one has been hearing of Waldeck-Rousseau, but he was, for the Third Republic in France, an important personage. And so the Third Republic has been placed a statue there, just to say the Republic is putting a foot on the Emperor land. And so psychologically, historically, and conceptually, the president didn't want us to move that statue because it was an important political act. But actually, we have been able to place it here and to do our design. And he was not also wishing that we lowered all those areas to be able to create an effect of the terrace. This was gently sloping, roughly, but to create a domination effect on the garden. So that's the main part where we worked. We have been very gentle on what we called le grand couvert, which is the horse chestnut squares, all kind of bosque of the period. We just added two pools here, which are in the shade, while the others are in the sun and in the light. And this is the part who has been done by Jacques Wirtz, which was then a yard and before the palace. And it was transformed into a garden once the palace has been destroyed. The architect of the place, which was called Edmond Guillaume, a famous unknown person, has been repeating that Le Fuel design. It just flopped it into the yard. But that previously was a yard. And I'm going to show you some pictures of the result. This is the result at the very beginning. Those are very old pictures. Things are... And so I replanted some trees also that side to keep that sort of 19th century, but it's again one story. You can see all the spaces through the trees, which are above, and we took off all the shrubs which were there. Those are the moats which have been kept. Apart from that, which is a kind of bridge. But again, Mitterrand didn't want us to touch to that Second Empire sign, and he was right. So we have been keeping all the elements of what happened in the place, but trying to go back to the Le Nôtre feeling, which was one space. And again, by taking off the shrubs, without the walks, which were cross here, there and there, I'm going to show you a few pictures and you will see the effect. While today the pool, and we didn't touch it because of the moats, is absolutely around, and so we don't have the perspective effect. That's the result of the new walks. This picture is also interesting because you can see that, I mean, the trees that we kept are still on some areas closer to the center, a bit raised. We had to take off the trees closer to what is now a terrace, because then, and you see diagonally the size of that pool is the same size as that one. But you can't see it today because that was shrubs and you were not able to read, when we found the garden, the connection between the pools. So without saying it, you can see, without noticing it necessarily, but if you are looking for it, you can imagine what were the Le Nôtre type of effects. A few pictures. Yes, again, one is to show you that the land was higher. And yes, that picture is also because we haven't been touching to the connection to the terrace. You see that sloping. And we kept that bit, which was supposed to be taken out for the access, for the work, and it has never been taken out, which is a pity to my eyes. And what do I have also? Yes, there is no other stories to tell. No, what we did, yes, maybe I'm going back, if you are patient enough, is, do I have the same pictures under the nose? It's very funny, the effect of seeing the slides. That's a pool, so. Yes, you see it probably better than I do. But anyway, the design around the smaller pools, round pools, is not the same. I mean, we just thought about the effect which was made on the bigger central pool, which was not equivalent and not symmetrical around the pool. And so we have a round side and something which is a hybrid of the previous design when it was... Le Nôtre has always been placing an element in another shape than the first element. So around the round pool, he was never designing a round story. And if you remember again his plan, the two small round pools are in two squares. So half is a square and the other one, you don't see it properly, probably. And also what we did was to work on the leveling of the grass, and you see that there is a strong wide alley there, but as far as we raised all the grass, it's a huge place. We have less of that bloody sand in the eye, and that was another story which Le Nôtre didn't work there, but which has been important in his work. And these are a few pictures of various time of flowering. This is not existing anymore, but this is the plantings I was doing with annuals to hold the space. Not a drop of white. There is enough sand, enough statues in that place. This is the Valdecrousseau sculpture that Mitterrand didn't want to move. And I'm going, if you're not too sleepy, because I know I have a rather soporific ring tune. And we are going to Versailles then. Up. Geographical situation of the place where I'm working. The castle, the Galerie des Glaces, which is under that roof, Bassin Neptune on slopes, which is on the north side, west with the Grand Canal somewhere. First plan, les parterres d'eau. Second level, le Bassin Laton, which is in restoration, with a very nice fountain here. And here, south side, parterre du Midi, and then the orangery, and that lower level, and somewhere here, la pièce d'eau des Suisses. So the place where I'm working is there, just behind a very nice grove, which is called Les Bains d'Apollon. And Les Bains d'Apollon was Les Bains d'Apollon in Louis XIV's time, and then it was transformed by Louis XVI, late 18th century, because all the trees were cut down, they were too old, and he has been transforming a few bosques. And there is a wonderful grotto made by Hubert Robert here. And that bosque, which was le Bosquet du Théâtre d'Eau, Louis XIV's time, was then transformed into just a round place called le Bosquet du Rond Vert. This bosque, which is le Bosquet des Trois Fontaines, is connected to America because it has been restituted thanks to American money, and le Bosquet de la France Triomphante. And that side of the axis, on the south side, there is very nice grove, including some historical ones which haven't changed, like la salle de bal, the ballroom, which is an outdoor story. So that's the placing of the place up. That's my ideas plan. I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but you will try to remember it's messy. I did it quite messy on the vision of it because I was terrified that the shape would terrify the judge, the jury. And you will see it on Idiot's plans. I mean, not supposed to be nice plans, but better later. That's after the storm. We had two storms, 90 and 99. And that was the shape of the bosque where I was with the Louis XVI design and not the Le Nôtre. You will see that there is a pool here, which was added by Mansart after Le Nôtre's work. Very, very early 18th century. And that's the result of Louis XVI's work, which was the connection here with the palace. Oh, no, this is the Bassin Neptune anyway. But the crossing was straight and you could see from one place to another. And that was the only place which was not planted of trees. You see the Bosquet de Lisières were empty. Everything has been cut down after the big storm. And I'm talking about the big storm because thanks to it, I've been working there in some ways. No, it's sad, but this is the way I found the place, empty. A few things which are important, which are the archaeology of the Bosquet du Théâtre d'Eau. This is what we call a pierret, which is an evacuation of water. And this is the basis of La Nappe, which was the fountain in between the higher level of the space, which was the stage, and the room. And this is a long story. I've just a bit here, but you can't see it properly. But there is shells, there is piece of glass. I mean, not glasses like that, but piece of, yes, I think it's glass, the word. Du verre. How do you say du verre? Glass, okay. That's a Perel painting. The picture I was showing you was the foundation of that fountain. And so you had a stage and the room. And we will go to the plan, which is more explicit, I would say, and 3 axes of cascades called les goulottes. And here, a fountain of children, of a child, but a king child, les enfants Dieu, of a god child. And those groups of fountains were children playing. So 2 levels that, and if you count, you have 3 fountains. You see it better, but there is 9 jets. And one of the pierres I was showing it here, the end of the room was 18 jets. Again, 3, 3, 3. That's the plan, which is a later plan than the Lenôtre's work. It's planche au fourier. I'm showing it the other way around because the nose is there. And because all the plans I'm showing with the nose up. But you see the 3 cascades. La nappe, which is that fountain in between the stage and the room. And here again the 18 fountains. And that fountain was then added by François Mansart, but the fountain was la fontaine des enfants dorés, so the gilded children. And all that to explain you the way I worked there. I asked Jean-Michel Otoniel, who is a French artist, to come and work with me. First I asked Versailles if I could play the story with somebody else and not being the only, because the competition was again with just landscape gardeners. But I said to them, would you accept that the landscape gardener in his team has somebody who is going to be creative too? They said yes, and then I called them back. And why I wanted an artist, it's because Les Fontaines d'Enfants Dieu I was showing were designed by Lebrun. The group of children playing were of a design of Le Paultre, who was a very good 17th century engraver. I mean, it was, Lenôtre has been working there with a team of other artists. And so I didn't want to work there, being very intimidated to work in Versailles, to do something new in an old place. And, but they accepted it. So I started to work with Jean-Michel, telling him that Greek mythology was a bit difficult to be understandable by most of the people. When today, when you are walking in Versailles, no one who is Latin. Very few people know who was Cérès. And so I wanted to keep a kind of mythology in that garden, but saying it would be Lenôtre and his little friends, Louis XIV if we can, and it's going to be dedicated to them. And I choose Jean-Michel also because his work, and you will see it later, is really turned onto something which is understandable by anyone, which is not too... I find him being more an ornamentist. I don't know if the word exists in English, but it exists in French. But being more keen on ornament than on concept or on provocation or on explaining what life is, but on creating a result which is understandable by any of us. And if I'm keeping that plan here, it's because my other thing is I wanted to keep in the new plan a few connection with the old Bosque. So thanks to the plan, the Chou-Fourier plan you saw, and thanks to the archaeological discovery, I replaced that initial plan on the archaeological discovery, which are the marks in red here on the plan. First of all, to avoid to build anything on them. things are built. But those red marks were not important historically because they were foundation of things which happened later than the Le Nôtre work, but the things which were important were that. Do I see it? I don't see it, but it's somewhere here. You must have some red here. And I did try to work, finding many directions, but hybridizing the number 3, and the number 3 more than having it north-south directed like the 3 goulottes. I took that additional pool as being 1. I re-added same shape, an additional peninsula, I would say. And as far as the shape of a round, perspectively, is an oval, but with the same one. So I had 1, 2, 3. All the trees are, I have 90 oaks. Everything is around the number 3. And I asked Jean-Michel to place some fountains where the groupe d'enfants dorés, d'enfants jouants were, replaced some U's in the placing of the 18 jets. My room is much bigger because today there is more people in a place, and we have also the placing of where the godchildren were in a discrete way. But so an historian coming on in the room is able to explain what was the scale of the Bosque. I'm going to talk a bit of the plants, which are dark green, evergreen things, because all the Bosque is composed of evergreen oaks and of an olive related, which is called Filaria latifolia. My markers are going to be Irish yews, but gold Irish yews, and I have a few shrubs and a few trees which are placed on in the stops, I would say, but which are going to be shaded, which are deciduous, and all gold, supposedly gold foliage, but fresh foliages against the very dark of the evergreen oak. Those are still about the hedges. It's not very interesting, but I have some formal hedges here, there, which are at the end of the walks, which are composed of the same thing as the walk itself. But I'm using, in other places, some fastigiate Alzheimer beeches, which are not going to need a lot of clipping. And this is the spiny things to avoid, which are those things, to avoid people to reach all the water for the children or to come into the grove too rapidly. Those are low plants, hollies, a native European oak for drier and warmer conditions, which is a Mediterranean, it's Quercus coccifera. And to have a bit of shade in the room, I just planted some Aralia elata, which is a very nice deciduous Japanese shrub. Those are details on the end of this pond is going to be grasses, and this is a few samples of the ground covers. Here it's full of periwinkle, and it's going to be based on periwinkles. If I choose it, it's because it's going to be happy in the sun today, and happy in the shade in 20 years, when the trees will have been growing. And that's the result of the fountains of Jean-Michel. There is a mix of plants and of things, because the Bosque is nearly finished. The only thing which hasn't been growing are the trees. And Jean-Michel has been working again, it's thanks to you, because he found here one of the sample of a book which was written by a man called Raoul Feuillet, who was a ballet dancer, who was teaching ballet to Louis XIV, and who has been writing, I hope, yes, I have some samples. Yes, and the book is composed of design like that. And it's the way Louis XIV, everything was written for him and not for the others. How the king should walk to dance, l'entrée d'Apollon. And so based on those drawings, he has been doing these fountains. And actually, he called that l'entrée d'Apollon, this one, with 2 blue pearls. I wanted to have marks of the placing, not in altitude, but of the placing of those groupes d'enfants jouants. This is not the historical image, but I wanted historians to have visual points where they knew that what was happening. And so I was delighted, and he found the book here in a library in Boston. I think it's in Harvard, on Harvard campus. And so that's the beginning of the work. I kept also some trees. When I found that funny design, it's simply because the leveling of the place was rather regular in that area. In between that point and this one, there is 6 meters. It's sloping to the north, being here where I am. And you see there is no trees. There is still the straight connections that you can guess. I had a few trees which I took down. This is the whole of the Bassin des Enfants Dorés. And seeing that I had 2 trees being in that axis, I decided to keep them and that they would be placed on the island. And so at that stage, we were starting to do the digging for the piping and all the bloody things. That was halfway, was now on the island. And you saw my design is really quite tedious. But when you enter the room, we will be able to see the fountains which are there without reading what's happening on your right and left. So without reading the shapes. A bit later, and with just rainwater. The pools are made out of metal, not because it's a contemporary way of doing a pool, but I wanted the pool to be easy to destroy and to be sent back to steel factories, and trying to be as little polluting as I could. That's a bit later, with the fountains on it. The grass starting to grow. Most of the trees have been planted. We are still working on that bloody thing which is necessary to make the water pure and to have the pressure for the fountains, because everything is electrical there. And you can see the pool I'm talking about, which is in restoration at the moment. And so that's the result of the place. And my trick on that stupid design is when you walk, we will have, again, there is a way of working like Lenot tried to do. In that special bosque, he accelerated the perspective. You saw that the cascade were short, less wide at the end than at the beginning, looking longer. He never worked that way, apart from there. But he has been a real genius about cheating. And the plan, which is not good, you never see it because you are never a bird. And no, but it's very funny. But I think that a bad plan makes you And again, I'm trying to find a story where you have this feeling that this amount of water is the same as here and there, which is not at all the case. And to end, it's what it will look like with synthesis, with computer pictures, and which are quite good to my eyes. I haven't been doing them myself. And this is a computer picture. And myself, I produce for the competition some pictures of this roughly the same way, but it works much better this way. And so that's the end.